folks, and welcome back to another Board Game Breakfast. Well, last week was very exciting for me. I got to go to the F2Z Entertainment headquarters for Tabletop Day. And I'll have a video out this week, hopefully, that shows you a little bit behind the scenes there. I was able to take some video and play some of the games. And I might do another video later on this week that kind of gives a short preview of each of the games that I played there. There's some pretty fun games that they're coming out with. Tabletop Day happened. I know that the cool stuff in Hollywood, Florida was jam-packed, so thank you to any of you guys who came out for that. And wow, that was last week. This week, we're going to be going to Atlanta to the Cool Mini or Not headquarters there. They're having a little convention, so hopefully some of you guys will be coming to that if you're anywhere in that area, and we hope to see some of you there. And we'll be taking footage and doing different things with some of the upcoming games that they have coming out. We are now chock full into the game season. There's lots of cool games. I got lots of new stuff to talk about, so I'm excited about that. We announced the Dice Tower Awards on Saturday, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in the news. And we also started a new show last week called Back Talk, in which me, Z, and Sam just talked about one of the subjects that I talk about in Board Game Breakfast and that Tom thinks, and going into it into more detail. Here now is the news. We are certainly in full news mode at this point in time. Captain America 3 Civil War comes out this week. Oh, yeah. Sorry. We're here for board game news. All right. Fantasy Flight has announced some Runebound expansions. Two of them, Caught in the Web, which is a scenario pack, and The Gilded Blade, which is an adventure pack. This marks the beginning of 600,000 expansions that Fantasy Flight will do for Runebound. That's probably not true, but probably not that great of an exaggeration either. Either way, it's good to see that they're really supporting this game and having more things for it. Stonemaier Games has announced in the future they're going to be doing Charterstone Village Building Legacy game. Now, they called Viticulture, the Tuscany, they called that a legacy thing, which really wasn't a legacy. It was just add more expansions as you go along. But this one looks like it's more of a legacy mixed with a Euro-style type game. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes on. And I think that's coming to Kickstarter later this year. Another thing that's coming to Kickstarter way in the future, but has been announced now from Red Raven Games, is Near and Far, which is equal to Above and Below. Above and Below is really, I'm watching it slowly grow, kind of a groundswell of the popularity of the storytelling game mixed with Euro-style mechanisms, and Near and Far seems to be a very similar thing to that. Twister is 50 years old. 50 years ago, it showed up on The Tonight Show, and it's still around. And it's a board game, so we're talking about it. Just don't, if you ever see Settlers Twister, run. Okay, Magic: The Gathering meets Dungeons and Dragons. Hey, this was like bound to happen, right? They're both owned by the same company, and so we're seeing a Planes of Zendikar. This is basically a free PDF download where you're going to be able to role-play Dungeons and Dragons in the Planeswalker Magic: The Gathering universe. Now, I'd be very curious. I'm wondering if we'll ever see the opposite, D&D stuff, showing up in a Magic: The Gathering set. I don't know, but still, it's kind of cool. There's a D120 now in existence. This is from Dice Labs, and it's a 120-sided die. It's really cool. I must have one. You'll never need it for anything important ever. Maybe someone will design a game around it, but likely not. We still got D100s, and no one's using those. I do caution you, if you're someone like me who likes dice, do not go to Dice Labs because, wow, all the different cool dice that I want. Mistfall is having an expansion coming out called Heat of the Mists. This is from NSKN Games, and this is interesting to me because Mistfall, as far as I know, had not hit the ground running that hard, if only because the rulebook is almost impenetrable trying to figure it out. I still haven't even got through it yet. There's a reprint of Mr. Jack coming, a 10th anniversary. And what's kind of cool is this is a reprint of this game for those who like it. I'm not one of them, but I know a lot of people really enjoy this two-player game. But at the 10th anniversary, the artwork's changed. The characters all look 10 years older. That's kind of a neat concept. And again, while I'm not the biggest fan, a lot of people really enjoy it. And speaking of NSCAN, they started a new studio, Strawberry Studios, which is going to be doing smaller family-style games. They've announced one, Three Wishes. This is in conjunction with Passport. We're seeing more and more companies do this family-style games, and I bring it on. I want more companies to do this because family-style games is a big category of gaming where I think not enough great little games are made, and I like to see more of those. We've seen Ascension X War of Shadows has been announced. It's really funny. Every time a new Ascension box comes out, I look at it and like, wow, the artwork is better than the last one. Considering where they started, they just keep going up and up. This one has different cards will act differently during the night and day. More Ascension goodness. Terra Nova Games has announced they're going to be printing Trick of the Rails. This surprised me. This is a quirky little game I played a while ago from Japan, kind of like a stock market trick-taking game. It was a pretty interesting little game. We'll see what they do to it and how they update it. Sierra Madre has announced BIOS Genesis from Phil Eklund. Phil Eklund tends to make very involved, in-depth style games, so he has certainly a lot of fans who will enjoy that. And then finally, the Dice Tower Gaming Award nominations were announced on Tabletop Day. And so you can go to our website, just go to dicetowerawards.com, and you can see all the different games that were nominated. A couple clarifications on these. Some people think they're my awards. I actually only vote in a tie. And so there's a couple categories where like the fifth one in there was decided by me. There was a few ties. But we have about 70 people who voted on all these different games. They're scattered all across the world. They all have different likes and dislikes, so there's no groupthink or anything going on here. We just wanted to pick the best games in the different categories. I think we picked some amazing slates of games. Which games will win? Those will be announced in July at the Dice Tower Convention. We'll be announcing those live, so hopefully you'll be able to see that there. The best of the best. This gives us a chance over the next couple months to make sure we've played all the different games in the different categories so we can vote as properly as we can. All right, let's get to Kickstarter news.
Happy breakfast, everybody. Let's take a look at what's happening in our crowdfunding world today. Fun fact, I minored in art history in college, so Starving Artists, which uses public domain art on the cards, caught my eye instantly. In this game of blind drafting and resource management, players are artists who must try to feed themselves by selling their paintings. You're going to buy and trade paint cubes, purchase canvases, paint canvases, and then try to sell those paintings. But the market is fickle, and if you don't sell enough paintings, you will starve to death. Starving Artist cards have a neat little grid on the bottom to assist colorblind players, and there is this really cool online tool that will let you create custom game cards using your own art. You can get a copy of this Paint by Cube game for a pledge of $29. Completely evocative of Mad Max, Saltlands is an exploration and racing game set in a post-apocalyptic world. Players use their vehicle to scavenge for equipment, hire on crew, fight off raiders, and search for the rumors that will help lead them to a mythical land of peace. You've got to manage your vehicle capacity, use your special abilities, and pick the right allies and the right moment to backstab them. The number of winners in this game is not predetermined because whoever makes it onto the team that finds the exit point first wins. Saltlands has style to spare, and the art really drives home that setting, and there's even a graphic novel that backers can download. A pledge of €43 will get you a copy of the base game, but €59 will also get you the Lost in the Desert expansion. Level 3B is bringing us what they call the game bag that you have always known you wanted, the Game Canopy. With the smallest bag costing $90 after shipping, this is going to be a luxury item for most gamers, but for many, these padded bags that are specially designed to protect your games during transport, it'll be worth the price. The Game Canopy is designed for easy access when you arrive at game night, and you can really tell that it was designed by people who love games. The Game Canopy comes in 2 different sizes, multiple colors, and has a shoulder strap and rainfly add-on, and it puts my IKEA bags to shame. Writer Patrick Rothfuss wasn't fully convinced that a good real game could be designed from tack in his Kingkiller Chronicles, but James Ernst convinced him otherwise. Originally just a fictional game set in a popular book series, Tack is an abstract 2-player game in which players are competing to complete a road across the board by either placing a piece or moving and distributing a stack of pieces. Like the best abstract games, TAC has simple rules but depth of play that borrows just a little bit from Mancala, but has an interesting angle that you can play on different size boards from a 3x3 to an 8x8. TAC has a lot of different pledge levels for the different board sets, and there are card and book add-ons as well, but the base level starts at a pledge of $25 plus shipping. Greater Than Games and Handelabra Development are bringing us Season 2 of the Sentinels of the Multiverse app. Now, the Sentinels app is one of the best board game apps out there with a great interface, gorgeous art, and streamlined gameplay. Season 2 brings us the remaining Sentinels content, including Vengeance, Villains, Oblivion, and a bunch of mini expansions. If you already own Season 1 of the app, all this content will just be added on to that, and you can play all of your unlocked Season 1 stuff with Season 2. Now, because of some of the App Store idiosyncrasies, Handelabra had to get a little bit creative with their pledge levels in order to make sure that the pricing was fair across the different platforms. But when all is said and done, a pledge of $25 will get you all of the Season 2 content and a promo too. Okay, that's all I've got for you this show. I hope something caught your eye, and until next time, I hope you have a great week.
So last week I introduced Whitley's Law, wherein I stated that if the gaming architecture is designed for 2 players, it does not play well with 3 or 4. Inversely, if a game is designed to be played best with 3 or more players, it does not abide adequate play with 2. And I do believe this rule is universal and absolute, except for a couple games where it doesn't work. So last week, I played for the first time in a while Can't Stop, the Sid Saxon classic. It's a push-your-luck dice rolling game. I'm sure many of you have played it. It teaches the probability of rolling 2 6-sided dice. You advance your markers up numbers 2 through 12, with the combinations available on 2 standard d6s, and the first person who gets 3 markers to the top of the board wins. Now, Can't Stop plays from 2 to 4, and 4 is probably too many. The board gets a little crowded, but it does play just as well with 2 as it does with 3. It's basically a solo dice game with very little interaction, and so I think it abides either the 2 or 3 format. But that's the only game that's an exception to this rule. Except maybe for also Takenoko, which plays really well with 2 and really well with 3. So maybe instead of Whitley's Law, this should be Whitley's Guideline more than an actual rule.
Code is more what you call guideline.
Yeah, I think we've already used that joke before. What do you think? What games do you know that play as well with 2 or 3? Put it in the comments section below, and I will catch you on the flippity flip.
Hey, this is Mike with the Board Game Makeover. In this week's episode, this is part 2 of a 5-part series of games on a plane. And this week, I'm going to show you how I was able to play Pandemic on a plane with a friend. Let me show you what I did.
I gave Pandemic a board game makeover so it would fit into my board game travel box of fun. I downsized the game board map and the cards, but used the rest of the original components in this game. I replaced the plastic infection cubes with these nice metal cubes I found online, but discovered that they were not attracted to magnets. One of the things I try to do is streamline the number of components needed for the game by creating a single component that would replace multiple components, yet continue to be as effective and useful as the original components. One idea was to replace the infection markers with the dice from Monster Apocalypse, using the different symbols on the dice to show the current infection in that city. But a better idea is to use a D4 die for each city, changing the number as the infection changes. I found some miniature figures from an old Clue game and used them instead of the pawns. The cards were reprinted at a smaller size to fit the smaller game board. Overall, Pandemic provided a perfect opportunity to become an excellent travel game.
Well, that's part 2 of a 5-part series of games on a plane. Last week was Room 25, this week, Pandemic. I would like to know if you've ever played a board game on a plane, and if you have, which one? I'd also like to know if you had a board game to play on a plane, would you play it? Lots of people have iPads, they bring those on the plane, they play games, and that's great, but it's not the same as a board game. The social interaction between you and a friend is much more valuable if you're playing an actual board game than if you're just playing on your iPads. So I would like to know your thoughts on that. So thanks for watching the Board Game Makeover. We'll see you next time.
Hey Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel.
Jason Levine.
Today's question from Steven. He says, have designers exhausted all the possibilities of things you can do with cardboard? Are we done seeing innovation in the board gaming industry?
I don't think so. There's always some new concept coming out.
Softball question.
Yeah, I mean, look at it. I mean, I remember when we talk about games that came out. I remember when Settlers changed the industry, and then I remember when Dominion changed the industry. And there's always new games coming out. Now, the games that I think are changing the industry at this point are games like Alchemist, XCOM, World of Yoho, games where you're including apps into it. And there's always going to be something new that comes out, and something new, exciting, and something that really changes the way games are.
Yeah, when people bring it out, it gets really exciting. In the last 6 or 7 years, we saw Dominion, well, it's almost 10 years now, but Dominion deck building changed a lot of things. Then we saw Love Letter come out with the micro games, and that changed things. And then we're seeing, like even this year, I saw Mystic Veil, where you're taking parts of a card and putting them in a clear sleeve. Wow, that was like, it feels like a game changer there.
Yeah.
And I love that there's always this innovation. And granted, 99.9% of games are not innovative. But there's always something new. Like we're seeing legacy games now. Yes. That was an innovative thing, and we're seeing that get bigger and better. And so, do I think it's exhausted? I don't know that it ever could be. I think though it can always find something.
Exactly. I mean, look at Time Stories. Time Stories is a whole new genre. They're like save your game mode to go back and play it again mode, and who knows how many different versions of games like Time Stories are going to come out in the next few years because of the success of it. And that's the thing. One guy comes up with one idea that's different than we've seen before, and all of a sudden a whole genre of games spawned from it. And I don't think that's going away, and I think there will be someone who will come up with that next creative idea.
Yeah, and I'm actually really excited. Even dice building came,
yes.
And then actual physical building of the dice. There's all kinds of stuff. What could be next? I don't know, but I'm certainly excited to be there. Then designers are super creative, and I applaud them for coming up with these really cool, weird ideas, and I'm excited to see what's next.
Me too, very much so.
All right, until next question, I'm Tom Vasel.
Jason Levine.
Hey, welcome to Painting Miniatures 101. Today, as you can see, we're not in my studio as usual. We're on location at Recon 2016. So, last week it was Dungeon Run and Claustrophobia, and in one of our lowest voted segments, Dungeon Run ran away with it. Now, this week we're going to have Shadows of Brimstone take on Myth. And that'll be the last battle that we have for the first round. As, on a pre-roll died situation, Mice and Mystics got a bye into the second round. We'll be starting the second round next week, and I hope you guys will vote. Next week we will have 3 winners to make up for all the winners that I missed the last 2 weeks, and next week, for a cool stuff, as you can see in the background, a cool stuff gift certificate. So make sure you vote and leave a comment on who do you like better, Shadows of Brimstone or Myth. It's your choice. Let's see and move on to the second round. So until next time, I'm Rob Orn. See you soon.
Hi, my name's Dave Adams. Welcome to Good Game, Better Gamers. Now, last week we looked at Antoine Bowser's Ghost Stories, and I fessed up to the fact that in my collection, it's probably one of the most played games that I have, and it's also one of the games that I have never won at. Now, one of the things I have learned from failing at Ghost Stories so many times is that, firstly, failing isn't fatal. It also isn't an indicator of future success. Every time I fail, I'm learning something new about the game. Now, when I first started, I didn't actually know how to use the village tiles effectively to help me progress through the game. So often what would happen is I would just move from monster to monster, and I would try and roll in the hopes of rolling something decent enough to destroy it. As I've gotten better, I've suddenly realized how using the village powers is incredibly effective. This leads me into my next point, that failure is not the same as starting again. Every time I fail, I gain new experience, I gain new know-how, and I gain new insights into the game. And the final thing that failure can teach us is that failure can still be fun. I've enjoyed the tension, I've enjoyed the build-up of the game, I've enjoyed the suspense, I've enjoyed being on edge with each and every roll. And that's the game for me. That's the experience of it, and I love it. Now, I do want to give one final warning before I finish up, and that's not everybody is on side with a culture of failure. Failure is sometimes not an option, and it is essential that we succeed. A culture of failure helps people to shed themselves of the fear that stops them from trying at all. And ultimately, yes, it should lead to success, both in our young people, in our lives, and hopefully in our gaming. Thanks for listening. I'm Dave Adams. You've been watching Good Game, Better Gamers. Until then, enjoy your breakfast.
Okay, well, for some reason last week, a couple reviews I did, I scheduled them incorrectly, so they didn't go up. So you're going to see even more reviews from me this week. Also, you're going to see a board game blender from Z, but I'm going to be taking a look at Junk Art, Historia, the expansion to Exodus. People have been asking us to do that one for a while, the expansion to Flip City. There's just a lot of different cool games that we're going to be doing. Some new things from Mage Wars Academy, a dual deck for Magic the Gathering. We'll be doing another talkback. I'll be doing the letters R and S in my Alphabest series, and so all that stuff will be coming this week. You can find all that at dicetower.com, as well as our podcasts and different things. And are you kidding me? Anyhow, check that out, dicetower.com.
Hello, Chaz Marler from Pair of Dice Paradise here, continuing my list of the top 5 most important board game design elements, according to me. This is my list, but again, Brain Donors is one of my favorite movies, so really, how trustworthy can my opinion actually be? Well, so far, we've covered board game names, components, and artwork, which brings us to the second most important board game design element on my list, the theme. One of the reasons why theme is so important is because it can be used as a shorthand to communicate a game's premise and expected mechanisms. For example, imagine the type of game that you would play given these themes: zombies and generic fantasy. Now, when you encounter a game with a zombie theme, it's likely that the game is going to incorporate some sort of survival element. Conversely, generic fantasy likely involves taking on the role of a character who will gain equipment and improve a set of skills during the gameplay. Did the games that you imagined when I mentioned zombies and generic fantasy match those mechanisms? A game's theme sets the stage to present an environment where its game mechanisms make sense. So, in that respect, perhaps overused themes aren't actually such a bad thing, and perhaps even beneficial. But of course, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be constantly exploring new themes. However, treading into the realm of unusual themes isn't without its own potential pitfalls. Pret-a-Porter is an economic strategy game set in a world of fashion. Players run clothes companies and fight for dominance during fashion shows. It is an atypical theme. However, I've heard several people, including some fairly prominent male podcasters, state that they would not play this game simply because of its theme. It's one of those things that actually kind of was disappointing to hear. And to thicken the plot, Pret-a-Porter is in the process of being rethemed and reintroduced, being changed from the world of fashion to designing video games. Will the new theme be a success, even though the game's underlying mechanisms will be exactly the same as before? And if so, does that suggest that some themes actually are better than others? Well, personally, I still don't think so. What I do think is it would prove that people, all people, including myself, bring their own baggage with them when interpreting a game's theme.
Hey guys, it's Ashley here, and this is my board game of the week. It's Paperback! So, I guess Paperback, it's a game by Tim Fowers, and it's a word game mixed with a deck building game, which is a really, really unusual pairing, but it actually works really, really well. So I guess what I just wanted to talk about is the fact that it has such a great appeal for non-gamers. It has such an undaunting theme with the words, and everyone's played Scrabble, everyone knows about words and knows how to make words. So it just has such a great theme, and I think it really draws a lot of people in. So definitely check this one out if you're interested in trying to get a few of your friends into gaming. Thank you!
Hey folks, today I wanted to talk about spoilers. I mentioned earlier in the news as a joke that the Captain America 3 Civil War is coming out, but I am doing my best not to read any reviews of it. I'm going to go see it this week, and I'm very excited about it because I don't want to know what happens in that movie. And that happens a lot. There's a lot of movies that come out, and I remember when the Star Wars episodes 1, 2, and 3 came out, how you knew almost nothing about those movies, at least episode 1, and as we got to episode 3, the internet became more and more involved, and it was easier to find out information. And I remember episode 2, there was one major plot point that was spoiled for me because I had found it out. And maybe for some people it's not a big deal, but for some it is a big deal when part of a movie is spoiled for them. And one of the things about spoilers is that they are now coming into the game space. Now, they're not just now coming into the game space. There's always been games that have had spoilers mixed in with them. Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective is a good example, or any of those mystery dinner party type games that people get to, because if you've done them once, you know the answers, or you know kind of the solution. But nowadays we have more games that have spoilers with them, whether they're these escape rooms in a box style games, or whether they're the legacy games, Pandemic Legacy, Risk Legacy, Time Stories, things like that. And spoilers are a big deal. Now, where you run into problems with spoilers is there's different groups of people. There are folks who go around and deliberately spoil things for other people. Those people should be slapped, really. I mean, come on now. That's just rude. I know that it happens a lot with the Game of Thrones TV series, where people who read the books were deliberately spoiling it for those who watched the TV show. And that sort of thing is kind of abominable. If you're going around deliberately spoiling things and messing it up for other people, especially, right after the thing comes out, that's just kind of rude, I think, and very thoughtless. And I really can't think of any good reason to do so. Now, I do understand the innate part of wanting to share spoilers. And, once we played through Pandemic Legacy, well, I remember for us, we got to play it first, Pandemic Legacy, and that's fantastic and great, but there was no one to talk to it without, just the other people who had played it. And we'd be like, oh yeah, it's great. Well, why is it great? Oh, I can't talk to you. And even now, the game is very much widespread and people are playing with it. I'll meet someone and be like, oh, so what month are you in? They're like, oh, we're in July. I'm like, oh, I want to talk about something that happened in August. And so there's that desire to want to talk to people. This comes out with TV shows where you want to talk about something, or you start talking about something and someone else at the table goes, I haven't seen it yet. And you're like, oh, okay. And the same thing can happen with a game. Like, has everyone here played Time Stories, the Marcy case? Yes, yes, yes. All right, no. Oh, all right. And so when someone is desiring not to be spoiled, that can put a damper on a conversation. That's not necessarily their fault. But I have found that we've kind of gone to the other extreme where, because we have so much TV out there now, right, that it's impossible to watch everything. And so you can say, don't spoil me on that. Oh, well, when are you going to watch it? I don't know. I don't know when I'm going to watch it, but don't spoil me on it. That's fine. Then you need to leave the room so we can talk about it. And so it seems like every time I'm in a group of people, we can't talk about something because someone there is like, don't spoil me. We're like, but that happened 10 years ago. Like, I still meet people who will be playing Battlestar Galactica, and they'll say, don't spoil me on it. Well, the series ended a while ago. I mean, is there a statute of limitations? I mean, I would never want to deliberately spoil something for someone else, but if you really want to watch something or go through something, then maybe you should do so. So it's hard to explain. So this happens with board games. Should you spoil board games? Well, no, I don't think so. Like that time in that Time Stories thing where this happened? No. Or if you do spoil it, you should clearly delineate, hey, we are spoiling this. If you want to come into this thread or this review, and this is what we do playthroughs of Time Stories, for example. You want to watch those playthroughs? Well, they're going to spoil things. And one of the main reasons we do those is because I know that we do those playthroughs of Time Stories. I don't do that so people can find out what happens. That's not our point. We do that so other people who have played Time Stories can go in and watch those and have someone that they go like, yes, yes. And they, we have that shared experience. Because once the spoiler happens, once you know it happens, it's exciting. Like, hey, in Star Wars, do you remember when this happened? Oh, yeah, it was exciting. And this week, I'm going to see Captain America Civil War. I'm very excited about it. And all the people I go to, we're going to talk about it all night long. Then I'm going to go somewhere else, and we'll run into people, and I'll be like, have you seen it yet? No, all right, tell me when you have, because I can't wait to talk about it. So that's invading board games. I think spoilers in board games are fine to talk about with other people. Maybe some people don't care, then talk about it with them. But even then I would be cautious, like, oh, you're not ever going to play Pandemic Legacy? I would still be cautious about spoiling it for you because you might change your mind someday. And there's some pretty cool stuff that happens throughout it. So this is something I think that's going to happen more and more. In the news, I mentioned that Stonemaier Games has a Legacy game coming out. There's going to be other things. We got Seafall coming out this year, and our Artena Games has a game coming out, and there's going to be more. There's all those games. Like I said, the the Puzzle Rooms in a Box games are coming out. So there's more and more games coming out with spoilers, and I think as a internet society, we need to be courteous. Hey, I understand the desire. Let's talk about it. Just say spoiler, give people a heads up, and then don't go into one of those spoiler threads and be like, oh, I didn't know you were going to talk about this. No, it said spoiler on it. And so we have to be cautious. And don't also call people, I remember we did our Pandemic Legacy review and people said, you spoiled stuff explaining a little bit of the basic rules of the game. Then don't even watch the review. If you don't want to know anything, it's kind of like saying, oh, the trailer spoiled something for me. Well, again, don't watch the trailers for movies then in that regard if you're worried about them spoiling the basic plot. Interesting. I'd like to know what you guys think about spoilers. Tell me in the comments below. Let's continue on.
April 27th is a national holiday in the Netherlands. It's the day we celebrate the birth of our king, Willem-Alexander. And this year, King's Day was a cold one, but with flea markets on every corner and people playing outdoor traditional games, everyone was orange crazy as usual. This week I am honoring my country that has more than 25% of its land below sea level. This week I am playing Ticket to Ride, the Netherlands map. Just like in the regular Ticket to Ride, players collect train cards in order to claim routes between pairs of cities with the overall goal of completing tickets they hold in their hand. Now, what I usually see in games of Ticket to Ride is that people will hoard train cards in their hand and at the end of the game start claiming routes one after the other. This version of Ticket to Ride works against that. Because the Netherlands has a countless amount of rivers and canals, when you claim a route on the Netherlands map, you will not only need to pay with train cards from your hand, but you will also need bridge toll tokens. You start out with 30 of them, and you can only get them back when another player claims a route right next to yours. Then that second player does not give those bridge toll tokens to the bank, but instead they give them to you. So getting out your tracks quickly is smart, because if you claim a route without having enough of those bridge toll tokens, you will get penalty points, and you will forfeit your chance of getting bonus points at the end of the game. 55 points go to the person who's got the most tokens left. And that is a big amount of points. The map of the Netherlands is a great addition to the Ticket to Ride universe, and I highly recommend it to anyone who already knows how great the game Ticket to Ride is. And I would like to invite everyone in the world to come to the Netherlands and experience King's Day. Just don't forget to update your travel guide, because in 2014 the date shifted. This might save you some embarrassment. My name is Dave Luza and this is Playing the News. Thanks for watching.
Hello and welcome. The best and the worst with Niels from Cyril's Brettspiele, and today we are talking about Assault on Doomrock, an RPG or a card RPG from beautiful Disaster Games. The best part for me on Assault and Doomrock is that you have technically two games in one box. One game is just traveling along this adventure path, get all these cool events, this new stuff, equipment, level up your characters, buy some stuff for gold, having some encounters, all of that combined with the setting deck. Everything is perfectly like an adventure. And then break. Then this super awesome this battle starts, and you have this position your guys around here. Let's push it out here. So positioning them here, making a group, forming a group, attached, not attached, but without these hassles of, oh, is that line of sight? Can he shoot? Skip all this boring stuff of RPGs. It's just simply the basics of what you want. The flip side of that game is exactly what an RPG has usually as a flip side. It could be a really long game, and when you find only the equipment which is not for you, so you find a crossbow and you're a melee fighter, or you find some cool other new level up spells and you're not a spell taker. Oh wow. That could be a little bit of punishing, but again, that's in every single RPG the case, so this is not a specific Assault on Doomrock error. However, it could be punishing. Yeah, that was my personal favorite of Beautiful Disasters, Assault on Doomrock. My name is Niels, Brettspiele. See you next time. Bye bye.
Hey folks, today we're taking a look at an insert from Robert Searing at inserthere.me, and this is an insert for one of my favorite games, Blood Rage. So let's take a look at this, and here's all the boards and the rules. Now I'm not using every part of this insert at this point in time. I don't have the Kickstarter extras for the game, but there's room for those if you want. So you see there's this top tray. I have the different areas here. I do have the 5th player expansion and the gods involved in here, but you can see that right now the gods are in here. I'm just storing with the 5th faction, but I could probably have stuck them here on the top, or I could have put them here. You can always go to his website. It shows you what goes where. The card drawer comes out, and you can keep your cards separate in different categories, and then you have the different factions here. You can see one of my factions is unpainted. That needs to get painted. And then each of these boxes comes out, and so you can give it to someone to keep track of all the different figures that they have. So anyway, this is all very sturdy. Once it's all in, you can turn the box sideways and the stuff doesn't fall out. And again, that's from inserthere.me. That is another Board Game Breakfast. Thank you to all the contributors who sent stuff in. Don't forget, each week we also do a week in review video where all the folks who put videos on the Dice Tower channel are going to go back and take a look at the reviews we did, do short snippets of them, so you can see that. Also, I didn't mention this anywhere else in this video, so it's important. Today at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, we'll be doing a live Q&A, so come by and say hi, ask your questions. You can go there right now and start asking questions and voting up questions you want us to answer, and we'll see you then. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel. You're watching the Dice Tower, and this has been Board Game Breakfast.
Thanks for watching Board Game Breakfast. Tune in each week for your daily dose of gaming goodness with Tom Vasel and all the gang. Until next time, I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast, a Dice Tower production, sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., an amazing place to buy board games. Cool stuff in stock at coolstuffinc.com.